My name is Emily Carter. A few years ago, my father accidentally sent me a video that was never meant for me. My own family sitting around a table, calmly explaining why I was a failure. If you've ever discovered the truth about your family by accident, tell me about it in the comments. Work was crawling along in the way it does when nothing is wrong. The laptop was open, a spreadsheet half finished, notifications stacking in the corner of the screen. Family group chats kept lighting up my phone on the desk. I let them buzz. That wasn't unusual. A message came through from my dad, David. Not the family thread, just him. No text, only a video attachment. I tapped it without thinking. The sound came first. Plates clinking, someone laughing off screen. Then the picture settled, and I saw my parents' dining table. Everyone was there. My aunts, my uncle, my cousin leaning back in his chair. They were eating, relaxed, comfortable. And they were talking about me.
Pathetic, my aunt said, shaking her head. She can't even stand on her own, my cousin added. No one would miss her, someone else said, casual, like they were commenting on a TV show. My dad did most of the talking. He spoke clearly, confidently, the way he did when explaining something to a bank or a contractor. He listed my flaws, my choices, my failures. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't joke. He sounded prepared. The video ended. My thumb hovered, then dragged the timeline back. The date stamped in the corner wasn't old. It was recent. Very recent. I watched again, slower this time. That's when my dad said it. The lease is in my name anyway, he told the table. She won't notice. The room around me stayed exactly the same. The spreadsheet didn't change. The phone stayed warm in my hand. A notification slid down the screen. Video saved to cloud. I hadn't touched anything. Another prompt appeared right after, bright and helpful. Create shared album? I closed the video, opened the chat. My hands didn't shake. There was no speech forming in my head. One sentence was enough. Thanks for showing me where I stand. The message sent. The status changed to delivered, then seen. The phone rang almost immediately. My dad's name filled the screen. I didn't answer. It rang again, then again. Missed call stacked on missed call. I turned the phone face down and opened settings. Account, privacy, security. Each tap felt deliberate, like checking items off a list I didn't remember writing. The first message came before I finished my coffee. Your dad is worried about you. Then another. He's just trying to help. By the time I left for work, my phone had filled with variations of the same sentence. Aunts, cousins, people who only called on holidays. No one asked what the video showed. No one asked why it existed. They asked if I was okay, but the question felt rehearsed, like they already had an answer they preferred. At the office, my manager sent a calendar invite with no explanation. HR was already in the room when I arrived. A chair had been added, pulled slightly away from the table as if distance might make things easier. We received a call, my manager said, careful with every word. HR took over. Your father contacted us out of concern. Concern was doing a lot of work in that sentence. He said he's worried about your mental state, she continued. He felt responsible for speaking up. No one accused me of anything directly. They didn't need to. The questions were soft but directional. Have you been under unusual stress? Do you feel supported right now? Would some time off help? I nodded where nodding was expected. By the end of the meeting, my access badge had been temporarily deactivated, framed as a kindness. Paid leave. Space to breathe. In the hallway, Maya caught up to me. She didn't ask how I was feeling. She asked one thing. Did you save the video? Yes. Good. That was it. No hug, no speech, just that. Back at my desk to collect my things, an email notification popped up on my phone from an address I didn't recognize. A security alert. A login to my secondary email account. The location was familiar. Too familiar. My parents' house. I reset the password immediately, then checked the activity log. The login had happened that morning. After my message to my dad,
after he'd started making calls. At home, I pulled up the lease agreement for my apartment. It took longer than it should have to find. When it opened, the header settled the question I'd been avoiding. Tenant, David Carter. My name appeared lower, smaller, listed as an authorized occupant. The line from the video replayed itself without asking permission. The lease is in my name anyway. An email arrived while I was still reading. Subject line, update to your tenant information. It was from the property management company. Polite, neutral, automated. It thanked me for my inquiry and confirmed that all changes to residency status would be reviewed with the primary leaseholder. A link followed. Click here to schedule a review. The phone buzzed again. A new calendar invite. Family meeting. Organized by David. Scheduled for the weekend. Attendance requested. Attached was a document titled Occupancy Confirmation. Signature required by Monday. I didn't open it right away. Maya texted, "They're moving fast." Yeah. Don't sign anything. I wasn't planning to. Another message came in, this time from my aunt. Your dad is heartbroken. He's trying to protect you from making decisions you'll regret. Protect, concern, help. The same words kept rotating, polished smooth from overuse. A voicemail notification appeared, then another. I didn't listen. The transcripts were enough. Please call me. We need to talk. You're misunderstanding everything. The property management email refreshed itself, adding a reminder beneath the first message. Action required within 72 hours. I opened the family meeting invite. The guest list was long. Names I hadn't spoken to in years. People who would show up believing they were there to help. The occupancy form sat in my inbox, unsigned, while my phone continued to vibrate with updates, reminders, and well-meaning pressure. Each notification stacked neatly, time-stamped, waiting for a response. The email app suggested I mark the thread as important. Instead, the calendar invite caught my eye again, the deadline glowing on the screen while my finger hovered over the document, the cursor blinking at the signature line, and the phone buzzed once more with another reminder asking if I was ready to confirm. The lease document stayed open on my screen longer than it should have. Scrolling past the main pages felt familiar. Rent amount, term length, fees, nothing unusual. The appendix was where things changed. Addendum B had my name on it, not typed, signed. A clean electronic signature sat at the bottom, dated 6 months earlier. The font matched every other digital signature I'd ever used. The timestamp didn't. I hadn't signed it. The platform logo at the top gave me a place to start. I clicked through the audit trail, expecting something vague. Instead, the log was detailed. Time, device, email used for verification. The email address was the secondary one my parents had insisted I create a few years back. Just in case, my dad had said. For emergencies, my mom added. That email address had approved the signature. The log showed it clearly. Verification code sent. Code entered. Signature finalized. The activity history listed the IP address next to it. I didn't need to look it up. I already knew where it pointed. Another detail clicked into place while the page refreshed. Building security notifications were archived in the tenant portal. Maintenance updates, package alerts, camera notices. One entry stood out. Hallway camera temporarily offline due to maintenance. The date matched the video, the same evening, the same time window. I stared at that line longer than the signature. The timing wasn't sloppy. It was deliberate. The phone rang while I was still logged in. David's name appeared again. This time, I answered. "Why did you sign something as me?" The words came out steady. A pause followed. Not surprise, not confusion. "You left," he said. "You were acting unstable." That's not an answer. I had to make sure things didn't spiral. "You forged my signature." Another pause. Then honesty, stripped of any effort to soften it. "I needed control before you embarrassed us." There it was. No apology, no denial, just justification. "You talked about me like I wasn't there," I said. "You recorded it. You weren't meant to see that, but you planned for everything else." The call ended without a goodbye. No slammed phone, no raised voices, just the line going dead. The property management portal was still open. A banner at the top reminded tenants that disputes should be reported promptly. A button read, "Submit a request." Clicking it opened a form. Name, unit number, issue category. The drop-down menu offered options: maintenance issue, billing question, noise complaint, neighbor dispute, family-related dispute. That one made me stop. I selected it. The next field asked for details. No character minimum, no guidance, just a blank box waiting to be filled. I kept it factual. Dates, documents, no commentary. At the bottom, a checkbox appeared. I certify this information is accurate to the best of my knowledge. Checked. The system asked if I wanted to upload supporting files. I attached the lease addendum, the audit log, and the camera notice. 3 files, clear labels. Before submitting, the page prompted me to review. A summary appeared, neat and neutral, reducing everything to bullet points and timestamps. The Submit button sat at the bottom. I pressed it. The page refreshed and displayed a confirmation number in bold. Beneath it, a line of smaller text appeared. Estimated review time, 30 to 45 days. An automated email arrived seconds later with the same wording. No acknowledgement of urgency, no recognition of what was at stake. Just a time frame, 30 to 45 days. Another email followed, this one from the building's system, reminding tenants to keep their contact information current to avoid delays. The phone buzzed again. A new message from my dad, short this time. "We'll handle this as a family." I didn't reply. The notice arrived just after noon. Temporary access suspension pending legal verification. That was the subject line. No greeting, no explanation beyond a paragraph of polite language explaining that my access to the apartment was being restricted while documentation was reviewed. The message ended with a sentence that felt deliberately calm. "Please vacate the unit by 6 p.m. today." I called the property office immediately. The woman who answered sounded tired, not unkind. "There's a legal note on the file," she said. "I can't override it." "What kind of legal note?" "A guardianship filing, temporary. We were advised to limit access until things are clarified." By the time the call ended, the clock read 12:17. The elevator ride up felt shorter than usual. The door to my apartment still opened, but a printed notice had been taped to the wall beside it. I read it twice before unlocking the door. Inside, everything looked exactly as it had that morning. Shoes by the door, laptop on the desk, half-charged phone cable. I started with what I could carry. Clothes went into a backpack, charger, wallet, passport. When I reached for my work laptop, a red light blinked near the port. A remote lock message filled the screen before it went dark. I called my manager. It went to voicemail. Downstairs, a maintenance worker waited near the elevator. He checked my name against a clipboard. "You'll need to leave the rest," he said. "Unit access is sealed until further notice." My hands were empty by the time I stepped outside. The next message came from my dad's lawyer, formal, brief. It explained that a petition for temporary guardianship had been filed out of concern for my recent behavior. It cited instability, poor judgment, risk to myself. My phone filled with family responses after that. No one asked if the claims were true. They asked if I was safe, if I was taking care of myself, if maybe I should listen to my dad just for now. No one mentioned the video. No one confirmed it existed. Maya met me at a cafe a few blocks away. She didn't ask where I was staying. She didn't offer solutions. She listened while I read the email aloud. "That lease addendum," she said when I finished, "that's the key." She pulled out her notebook and drew a simple line down the page. "Before anything happens," she said, tapping the top, "paperwork. After," she tapped the bottom, "concern." It wasn't said with anger. It wasn't even said with judgment. Just observation. My phone buzzed again. Another automated message from the property management system confirming that my unit had been secured. It thanked me for my cooperation. At my parents' house, I knew what was happening. Doors closed, conversations lowered, my name used carefully, like a condition that might worsen if handled wrong. A cousin texted, "Dad says he's doing this for your own good." I didn't answer. The guardianship notice came through officially that afternoon, delivered to my email with a PDF attached. It listed the basis for the request, the lease, the alleged abandonment, the calls to my employer, everything connected back to documents, not conversations. Maya couldn't fix that. All she could do was help me see it. He doesn't react, she said. He prepares. That night, her couch became temporary. I sat there scrolling through alerts, watching systems update themselves around me. Account access pending. Verification required. Review in progress. One by one, the things I assumed were mine asked for proof. The next morning, I went to the phone carrier's store. The account had been acting strange since the login alerts. Messages delayed, settings locked. The clerk smiled when I explained the problem and pulled up the account. "Okay," he said, typing, "so we'll just need authorization from the primary account holder." He turned the screen slightly so I could see. David Carter. "That's my father," I said. "Yes," he replied, still pleasant. "He's listed as the primary." "I need to make changes." "I understand," he said, "but without his approval, I can't proceed." He waited, fingers resting on the keyboard, as if expecting me to hand over a phone or call someone over. The screen stayed there between us. Name, status, authority. I stood at the counter, looking at the account details while the clerk glanced up, ready to continue as soon as permission arrived, the system holding steady with David's name highlighted, waiting for a confirmation that wasn't coming. Maya's apartment didn't require anything from me. No deadlines taped to the fridge, no alerts asking for verification. The couch stayed where it was whether I sat on it or not. For the first time in days, there was nothing immediate to fix. That was the problem. Without tasks, patterns started to show up on their own. The guest Wi-Fi password was written on a sticky note by the router. Maya had already shared it. She didn't hover. She didn't check her phone every time mine buzzed. When I needed something, she waited to be asked. That difference stayed noticeable. My laptop was gone, sealed in an apartment I couldn't enter. The phone sat heavy in my hand, still functional, but clearly not fully mine. The guardianship notice remained unread after the first scan. No action item was attached to it yet, which meant the system was working the way it was designed to. That gave space for other things to surface. Convenience had always been my favorite excuse. Letting my dad put his name on the lease, joining the family phone plan, using the email account he helped set up because it kept things organized. Each choice came with a reason that sounded practical and temporary. The paperwork never was. On Maya's kitchen table, I lined up screenshots, the lease addendum, the audit log, the email security alert. Each one had arrived at a different time, under different circumstances, but the same name showed up in the same place every time. David Carter, authorized, primary, verified. The realization didn't arrive dramatically. It landed quietly and stayed. This hadn't started with the video. The video was just the moment the pattern stopped hiding. What felt like betrayal wasn't sudden. It was accumulated permission. Maya watched without interrupting while I moved files around on my phone, grouping them, renaming them. She waited until the sorting slowed. "He's been setting things up for a while," she said. "Yes. And you didn't want to push back." That wasn't an accusation. It didn't need to be. Avoiding conflict had looked like maturity for a long time. Picking battles, letting small things slide, trusting that being reasonable would be noticed and returned. Each decision had felt separate. Together, they formed a system that worked very well for someone else. The text from my aunt came through while we were still at the table. "Your dad is exhausted. He's scared." The words no longer needed interpretation. They functioned the way they were meant to. Maya leaned back. "If you argue about feelings, you'll stay stuck," she said. If you stay factual, you'll move forward. The path forward didn't involve proving I was okay. It didn't involve convincing anyone I wasn't unstable. Those arguments required permission from the same people who had already decided otherwise. Evidence didn't. Maya opened her laptop and pulled up a browser. "There's a company your dad used before," she said, "for document management, digital signatures." She slid the screen toward me. The name looked familiar once I saw it. The logo matched the platform header on the lease addendum. "They keep records," she continued, "more than landlords do." That shifted something concrete into place. Proceeding meant acknowledging a cost I'd been avoiding. Any attempt to unwind what had been set up would be visible, formal, irreversible. There wouldn't be a version of this where things quietly went back to normal. Normal had required my silence. My phone buzzed again, a reminder for the family meeting. Another message from David, this one longer, explaining how worried everyone was and how cooperation would make things easier. The message stayed unread. Maya didn't tell me what to do. She didn't offer to call anyone. She pointed out a process and let me choose whether to enter it. The website for the signature management company loaded slowly. The support page listed options in a tone that assumed good faith on all sides. Request audit log, verify identity, submit inquiry. The form asked for my name, my email, my relationship to the document in question. I filled it out carefully. Dates, file names, no commentary, just facts. At the bottom, a checkbox appeared. I understand that submitting this request may initiate a formal review. Checked. Before sending, I opened a second tab and scheduled a legal consultation. The earliest available appointment was 2 days out. A confirmation email arrived immediately. The page refreshed once the request was submitted. A ticket number appeared. Expected response time listed beneath it. While the screen loaded, Maya poured 2 glasses of water and set one near my hand. No announcement, no reassurance. The phone buzzed again. Another voicemail notification. Another reminder to sign the occupancy confirmation. The request confirmation stayed on the screen, time-stamped and logged, while the consultation appointment settled into my calendar. Both were quiet, procedural steps, visible to anyone who knew where to look. The response from the signature management company arrived sooner than expected. An automated email first, then a follow-up marked priority. The subject line referenced my ticket number and included a phrase that suggested neutrality. Audit log available. The attachment was a PDF, 37 pages long. Scrolling through it took time, not because it was confusing, but because it was thorough. Each entry followed the same format: document name, date, verification method, device fingerprint, originating email, IP address. The first record was older than the lease. Much older. 2 years older. My name appeared next to a test document labeled Sample Agreement. No monetary value, no legal weight, just a practice file. The signature matched mine exactly. The next entries followed a pattern. Different documents, different dates, all approved through the same secondary email address, all originating from the same location. My parents' house. This wasn't a one-time decision. It wasn't even a contingency plan. It was rehearsal. The phone account records sat in the same folder once I knew where to look. Authorization changes logged under my name. Cloud storage permissions granted, then revised. Access added quietly, then expanded. Everything connected by the same chain of approval. The email address, the device, the location. Every system believed I had consented. The line from the video surfaced again, unchanged. She won't notice anyway. That wasn't dismissal. It was assessment. Maya read over my shoulder while I scrolled. She didn't comment until the last page. "He's done this before," she said. "Enough times to know it works." The timing lined up too well to be accidental. Each major change followed moments when I'd been busy. New job, travel, deadlines, times when I'd trusted that nothing needed my attention. The legal consultation happened by video the next morning. The attorney listened without interrupting, eyes moving between documents. "This complicates things," she said finally. "The guardianship filing gives his lawyer leverage." "What kind?" "If you push too hard right now," she explained, "they'll argue you're violating agreements you technically signed." Technically. A notice came through before the call ended. David's lawyer had filed an emergency motion requesting dismissal of my complaints. The reason was framed carefully: family dispute lacking criminal intent. The language stripped the situation of impact, reduced years of preparation to a misunderstanding between relatives. The evidence I'd gathered didn't disappear, but it stalled. Jurisdiction questions surfaced. Who had authority to review what? Which process applied first? Everything paused while definitions were debated. The attorney didn't sugarcoat it. They're trying to freeze the board. Freezing the board worked. Notifications stopped updating. Portals displayed status messages instead of options. Review pending. Action temporarily unavailable. The risk sharpened quickly. Continuing independently could be framed as noncompliance. The guardianship filing hadn't been approved yet, but it didn't need to be. The possibility was enough to threaten consequences. The next email arrived from the court clerk. Formal. Brief. An expedited hearing had been scheduled. At the top of the document, the case title appeared. In the section labeled Proposed Guardian, the name was already filled in: David Carter. Maya sat across from me, reading the notice as it loaded on her screen. "He's not trying to win an argument," she said. "He's trying to lock you into a role." That part didn't require interpretation anymore. The video, the paperwork, the timing, all of it pointed in the same direction. This wasn't about repair. It was about access. My phone buzzed with a new message from David, written as if nothing had escalated. "We'll get through this," he said. "You just need to cooperate." The message stayed unread. The hearing date sat on the screen, highlighted automatically by the calendar app. A reminder had already been generated. Preparation deadlines populated beneath it, none of them optional. The attorney forwarded a checklist: documents to prepare, statements to avoid, actions that could be misinterpreted. Every instruction carried the same implication. Precision mattered now. The audit log remained open in another tab, the earlier entries refusing to fade. The practice signatures, the test runs, proof of repetition. Maya didn't tell me to rest. She didn't suggest distraction. She handed me a pen and slid a legal pad across the table. "What can't they dismiss?" she asked. The hearing notice stayed centered on the screen while the list began to take shape. Names, dates, systems, a map of actions that existed regardless of intent. Another notification arrived, confirming the court date and time. Beneath it, a line explained the scope of the hearing: temporary guardianship determination. The cursor blinked in the Notes app while the phone vibrated again, adding the event to my calendar automatically. David's name already attached to it, listed not as a parent, but as the proposed authority, waiting for confirmation. Representatives from the phone carrier and the property management company joined remotely, their names listed neatly on the screen without commentary. David sat across from me with his lawyer, hands folded, posture relaxed, as if this were routine. When my turn came, documents were placed on the table in a specific order. No statements about how things felt. No explanations about intent or family history. Just timelines, access logs, IP addresses, and contracts aligned side by side so they could be read without interpretation. "This is a family disagreement," David said early on. She agreed verbally. I was helping her. The hearing officer nodded once and asked for clarification. Dates were read aloud. The lease addendum appeared first, followed by the access records showing account changes and authorization updates. "I don't dispute that paperwork exists," David continued. "There's been a technical misunderstanding." The signature audit followed. The representative from the digital signature company joined the call and confirmed receipt of the logs. Screens were shared, lines highlighted, timestamps enlarged until they were impossible to miss. That signature template was generated from Mr. Carter's device, the representative said. It predates Ms. Carter's legal signing age. David's lawyer shifted in his chair. Objections were raised and formally noted, then set aside. The system chimed softly and displayed a notice at the top of the shared screen. Unauthorized signature detected. No one reacted right away. The hearing officer asked the representative to repeat the statement. It was repeated, slower this time, with the same wording. Questions followed, short ones, direct ones. The phone carrier confirmed that account authority changes had been approved using the same email and device. The property manager confirmed the lease structure and the reliance on the addendum for access decisions. David spoke again, his voice still controlled but thinner now. I was acting in her best interest. The hearing officer stopped him and asked for documentation supporting that claim. None was presented. The room stayed focused on the records, not the people sitting at the table. A pause settled while notes were reviewed. The decision was read aloud without emphasis or commentary. Temporary guardianship denied. Account access restored to Emily Carter. Residency access reinstated pending further review. The clerk typed while the officer spoke. Systems updated themselves in real time. My phone buzzed once on the table as access returned, notifications lining up quietly while the hearing officer continued reading procedural next steps. The screen updating again as David's name shifted out of the primary role and the session moved forward. The follow-up notices arrived quietly, without ceremony. Administrative review opened. Temporary restrictions placed. Communication redirected through counsel. Nothing dramatic, just lines of text confirming that systems were doing what they were designed to do once someone flagged misuse. David stopped calling. That wasn't a choice, it was a condition. The family group chat went silent. A new email address appeared in its place, one set up by a law firm, with instructions about approved topics and response windows. No one reached out directly anymore. Questions that used to come with opinions now came as numbered lists. One afternoon, while waiting for my own appointment, I saw him across the hall outside a conference room. He sat with his phone in both hands, staring at the screen like it had betrayed him. A red banner sat at the top. No access. He tried again, tapping slower this time, as if patience might unlock something. The banner didn't change. A receptionist called his name and he looked up, annoyed, then stood and followed her without checking the phone again. No one spoke to me in that hallway. No one needed to. The apartment situation resolved itself through paperwork, not conversations. Access restored, personal items released. The laptop was returned by courier, wiped and functional, as if nothing had happened. Work resumed without comment. Maya didn't ask if I was relieved. She asked what was next. Next looked small from the outside. A new phone number, a new account under my own name, a lease signed without anyone else listed in the margins. Each step came with confirmation emails and brief waiting periods, none of them dramatic enough to announce. One message stood out. Subject: your account is now independent. It came from the phone carrier, automated and cheerful, as if independence were a seasonal promotion. No explanation, no apology, just confirmation. I forwarded it to myself, then archived it. A cousin reached out a week later, carefully. "I don't think Dad meant for it to go this far," she said. "I know," I replied. The conversation paused there. "I don't hate him," I added, "but I'm not discussing access or decisions anymore." She acknowledged it with a thumbs-up reaction, the digital equivalent of acceptance without agreement. The new apartment keys arrived in a small envelope. The building manager walked me through the basics without asking questions. Everything was straightforward. No secondary contacts, no shared permissions. On the way out, I stopped by the old building one last time. The lobby looked the same. The desk clerk recognized me but didn't comment. The key sat heavier than expected in my hand. It had opened doors I hadn't realized were conditional. At the front desk, I asked for an envelope. The clerk slid one across without looking up. I placed the key inside and wrote my name on the front. No note, no explanation. "Could you hold this for the primary leaseholder?" The clerk nodded. "Sure." The envelope disappeared into a drawer, indistinguishable from mail and packages waiting to be claimed. Back at the new place, the door closed with a sound that was final without being loud. The lock engaged smoothly. The system panel by the door lit up. Setup complete. My phone vibrated once as the app synced. No alerts followed. No reminders. Just the confirmation that everything had transferred correctly. I set the phone down and unpacked slowly, choosing where things went without checking anyone else's preferences. The couch faced the window. The desk went where the light worked best. The silence wasn't heavy. It didn't need filling. Later, a notification appeared from the building system asking if I wanted to enable shared access. I declined. The screen updated, acknowledging the choice, and returned to the home page. The phone stayed still after that, no longer asking for permissions that weren't mine to give.